there are a couple of you in here who are foods, not water obviously, but now it's estimated that 75 to 80% of all processed food now contains some form of genetically modified organism. And up until recently, the public has been very disinformed about what does or doesn't. They just simply don't know that this is an issue, that their food may contain something that's been genetically tampered with. It's interesting because we are relatively, we don't care actually, but 30 other countries around the world, including Australia, Japan, and the entire European Union, have completely banned the use of GMOs in foods. And this wasn't originally done by the government. This was the companies the food manufacturers in the European Union decided unilaterally not to include these foods, despite originally they were working with them. But in the US, oddly enough, there was a 94-fold increase in hectarage from 1.7 million hectares in 1996 to 160 million hectares in 2011. We're exponentially growing more genetically modified crops, despite the European Union banning them altogether. And it's the fastest adopted crop technology in modern agricultural development. And the global value of biotech seeds alone in the US was $13.2 billion in 2011. And the end product commercial grain purchases for soybean and cotton was valued at $160 billion per year. And the 2011 study estimates that the cost of development for a single trait per crop is about $135 million. And that's a lot of money going around. And this technology came out of nowhere. One would assume that the FDA would be very involved in something so expensive and so prevalent in all the food we eat today. But the FDA's stance is actually quite weird on this. One would wonder, the FDA has determined that bioengineered food should be regulated like other conventional counterparts, and no special treatment should be given to genetically modified foods, despite their interesting background and the rest of the world's complete ban on them. And so it's actually quite simple why the FDA doesn't care about genetically modified organisms. The policy that was drafted by the FDA on genetically modified organisms was written by a lawyer who, before he began working for the FDA, was a lawyer for Monsanto. And after doctoring the policy for GMOs, he was actually reprimanded by many of the scientists working there. He is not a scientist, he is a lawyer. And before that, he was writing he was writing model laws that would be put up to Congress for different states. And so he's not a scientist. His laws were not written with the help of scientists. And after writing all these laws for the FDA, which completely gutted any chance they would have to regulate GMOs, he went back and is now the head of PR at Monsanto. So if you're wondering why the FDA doesn't care, they don't. But back when there was a chance that the FDA would care, an interesting study that was done by a company one of the first companies to want to go into the business of developing genetically modified crops, Calgen, their flavor saver tomatoes, which were meant to last longer on shelves and taste better after a longer time. It was shown that in 9 out of 20 rats, it caused stomach lesions. They're bleeding in their stomach after eating this. It's not pretty, it's not fun, but it was rats. And so this was submitted to the FDA, and they wanted to know, is this acceptable? Is this something we can do? And the FDA let them do it. Those tomatoes were sold to humans. And so I don't know why we're eating this stuff. So that was a very scientific study that they did, and they thought was okay. But some more subjective and more just people who use the crops today have seen, if you were to take a tub of GM corn or BT corn or whatever genetically modified crop, and the just generic seed alternative that hasn't been modified, and let in any farm animal, this has been seen multiple times, the animal will always eat the not genetically modified. You can chalk it up to taste or anything, but the animals just don't want to eat it. And in addition to this, there have been many also documented cases of animals after eating certain varieties of corn specifically meant for animals many of the animals died. Farmers observed this. Sheep specifically, some were grazing on genetically modified cotton plants. They died. Cows on some Roundup Ready corn died as well. So certain types of BT crops and Roundup Ready crop have inconsistent nutrient levels despite manufacturer claims and the FDA not caring. So BT crops, one of the main things touted about genetically modified crops is that they can be healthier for you. But this is only in instances where they've been specifically modified to be healthier for you. But the ones that we use commercially, the ones that are designed to either produce their own pesticides or tolerate very dangerous pesticides, they are actually very inconsistent in how nutritious they are for you, and their yields are very sporadic sometimes. But another interesting fact is that when these products are being developed, simply when they want to splice in like one gene to develop something to resist a toxin or to make its own pesticides, there are a variety of bizarre and quite disconcerting side effects that would occur. So it's not in a couple of plants, this is tens of thousands of acres just malfunctioning, not doing what they were supposed to. And the farmers that were working on this also developed allergies. They were working in the fields, and afterwards doctors received hundreds of cases of these farmers who had allergies after working in these fields that were being produced with unknown genetically modified crops. And so they were seen to have, obviously the health concerns are the most serious, but the farmers the crops did not have a consistent yield, and they were also seen to have lower yields, and some of the crops just didn't grow or died.